Being able to voluntarily change your behavior to create the life you want is a next level skill that you can use to create any life you want. If you can't appropriately diagnose what's holding you back from making the changes you want to make, you'll stay stuck and frustrated and thinking that there's something wrong with you. You're listening to the Health Courage Collective podcast, episode 224, Making Intentional Change Easier. Welcome to the Health Courage Collective podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that a few minutes of focused attention now can prevent years of suffering in the future. I'm your host, Christina Hackett, a pharmacist who doesn't want you to live on prescriptions, a certified coach specifically trained to maximize your potential, and a compulsive learner obsessed with preventative, cutting-edge, holistic, and integrative medicine. I'm on a mission to increase your physical and mental resilience so you can fearlessly look forward to your next 40-plus limitless years. Your time is now. Let's go. Hi, and welcome to today's episode. I hope you're doing great today. Has your thinking about the risks of hormone replacement therapy changed over this past week? I hope so. So many providers are putting women at great risk for all kinds of medical problems that make you stop living before you die in the name of avoiding what they think are the risks of prescribing hormone therapy for midlife women. But a lot of them aren't. It shouldn't be that way, but it is. So it's up to you to decide what you want to do with your hormone levels as you get older and wiser. There are definitely always things to consider and to be smart about, but the biggest risks of hormone treatment are what happen to you when you try to live 40 years with negligible hormone levels. Today, we're talking about change. Have you ever ridden an animal? Probably a lot of you have ridden a horse, maybe a donkey. Maybe you had a big enough dog as a little kid that you could ride that. And I think I've seen little kids ride sheep before. One of the tourist trappy things we thought about doing when we were in Mexico recently was riding a camel, but it seemed kind of weird since camels aren't native to Mexico. Or so I thought. I just Googled it, and apparently all modern camels first evolved in North America 40 million years ago. What? Wild. There aren't any more native ones in the Americas. Some of them migrated to Africa and Asia and became the camels that we know today. And the ones that stayed evolved into llamas and stuff. But we didn't ride camels. We went ATVing and my teenage boys loved it. So what about an elephant? As cool as I think it would be to ride an elephant, you're not supposed to. I remember hearing about that. There are many famous war elephants that were ridden by people like Alexander the Great and Charlemagne over the years. Even one of the popes and Marilyn Monroe have been known to ride elephants. You can too, but the sanctuaries or wherever these elephant riding places are usually use abusive training techniques and keep the elephants in poor conditions after having kidnapped them away from their loving families. Plus, an elephant's back is not designed to support the weight of a human, so constant pressure there can cause elephant chronic back pain. Not cool. So we're not actually going to go out and ride elephants or snatch them away from their grandmas who love them, but we're going to ride a metaphorical elephant, or more accurately, I guess, is see that we are all already riding metaphorical elephants because it's the only way we can get to our desired destination. We all want to make some intentional changes that help us become more of who we're meant to be, to overcome our weaknesses and use our strengths to help others. And the way we travel to our destination is via elephant. In Chip and Dan Heath's awesome book, Switch, which I love and have read more than once and would highly recommend if you're looking to orchestrate a change of any kind, they use an analogy throughout the whole book that they actually heard from a University of Virginia psychologist named Jonathan Haidt in his book, The Happiness Hypothesis. He explains that we're all like a rider and an elephant together. Picture yourself riding an elephant that wants to be ridden and has not been treated poorly. I like this image because you'd be pretty powerful. You could cover a lot of ground, and obstacles that seem big from the ground aren't a big deal from way up atop your powerful elephant. You'd have a great view that would give you a lot of perspective. You'd be able to see your destination earlier from atop an elephant, and it would just be so cool. The analogy is that our rational side is our rider and our emotional side is our elephant. We are both of these things, the rational rider and the emotional elephant. The rider holds the reins and has a lot of control. The rider can analyze data and come to logical conclusions. The rider makes decisions based on reasoning and communicates directions to the elephant. The rider has the ability to think long-term and make plans and come up with action items that will benefit her future self. The rider is a thinker and a planner, and that's hugely important. The only problem is that the rider's control is precarious because the rider is so small relative to the elephant. If the 150-pound rider and the 6-ton elephant disagree about where to go or how to get there, you already know who's going to win. We've all experienced a disobedient elephant, right? If you've ever skipped your workout, eaten the Cheetos you swore off, stayed up past your bedtime, ignored your to-do list, said something hurtful, procrastinated or chickened out, your elephant was in charge. The elephant's weakness is looking for the quick emotional payoff over the rational long-term gain. When intentional forward-thinking changes fail, it's usually because the rider just can't keep the elephant on the path long enough to reach the desired destination. So, what are we supposed to do about it? In the book, Chip and Dan do a great job of explaining how it's easy to see our own elephants and riders within us and to think that the rider is good and the elephant is bad. Maybe you think that the ideal would be if you could euthanize your elephant side and live your life just as your rider. Besides the horror of even thinking about killing an elephant, even an imaginary one, eliminating your elephant side would actually do you a tremendous disservice. The elephant isn't always the bad girl. She's emotional, which sometimes means whiny tantrums, foot stomping yells of, "It's not fair, I want it now," and refusal to get off the couch. And sometimes it means loyalty, empathy, selflessness, and standing up for what's right. Chip and Dan point out that the elephant is the one who actually gets things done. The elephant is where strength and energy come from. Without the elephant, the rider would never make any progress. Even though she's logical, the rider has a tendency to overanalyze, overthink, and hinder everyone's progress by agonizing over every detail. So, if you want to make a change on purpose, you have to appeal to both the rider and the elephant together. The rider provides the planning and direction, and the elephant provides the energy. One without the other leaves you stuck spinning your wheels or stuck not moving at all. But when you get both your rider and your elephant moving in harmony, difficult changes become easy. What do you think? Is creating a big change as simple as getting the rider and the elephant inside yourself working in harmony? When something is complicated and confusing, I love having a good mental framework to use to categorize things in my mind so that they seem approachable, which to me means organized. If you're like that too, then I think you'll appreciate this model you can filter your ideas through as you try to create change. The book Switch has tons of good examples to make this make more sense, but the basic framework is that in order to create a change and to diagnose resistance to change, like, why is this not working, is to consider 3 factors: direct the rider, motivate the elephant, and shape the path. This is the magic formula for making a successful change. No elephant riding Prince Ali or his Fresh Prince magic genie required. So first, direct the rider. Not all resistance to change is an elephant running amok. The first part of this framework is to consider when diagnosing a change problem or attempting to create a successful change is to direct the rider. A rider who isn't sure exactly what to do step by step, like pull the left rein lightly upward with just 3 fingers and squeeze with your right knee at 20% of your strength while saying razzmatazz. That's like the dumbest example ever, but it's specific. Without an exact plan of exactly where to go, how to get there, and how to direct the elephant to behave, the rider will burn herself out while leading the elephant in circles. If you want to counteract the forces of age on your body, maintain your bone density and muscle mass, keep your cardiovascular health from declining, improve your immune function by enhancing your lymphatic circulation, and simultaneously reduce your risk of depression and chronic pain, you have a lot of options. I'm sure you probably know this. It can be pretty overwhelming. So if your writer is attempting to make the change of counteracting the effects of aging on her body, what exactly is she going to do? Probably nothing. You might feel like that's a lazy elephant problem, but it's really a confused writer problem. The writer could spend weeks or months researching and watching YouTube videos and reading articles and asking friends. It might feel to her like she's directing the elephant, but she's not. The writer needs clear instructions. That's why maybe she could significantly change her trajectory by listening to my episode 28, Sedentary Exercisers. It has very clear directions for the writer. Buy a cheap timer and set it so that you stand up from your chair every 20 minutes. That's it. It will improve all of those metrics. It's not a standalone, complete anti-aging strategy, but it is hugely important, has massive benefits, and it's super clear about what to do. Your body is made to move throughout the day, whether you worked out earlier that day or not, and sitting for more than 20 minutes at a time causes the same deterioration of your body that happens to astronauts in space. On a different time scale, obviously, but it's a form of gravity deprivation that damages your physiology. So the next time you're designing a change or trying to troubleshoot something that's not working for you, ask yourself if you've been crystal clear with the writer. I know a lot of times when people don't do something on their to-do list, it's because it's not crystal clear. Get leaking seal around back window fixed. Might feel clear, but seeing that as a line item can feel overwhelming. By the way, if you do know how to fix a leaking seal on the back window of a car, please tell me, because mine leaks and I've never gone through the steps to get it fixed. Luckily, it doesn't leak when it rains, only when I get a car wash, but still annoying. Anyway, if instead you think clearly about what exactly is the next step and instead write that on your list, your writer will know exactly what to do and will be much more likely to do it. So maybe instead you write, look up auto glass shops and write down 3 phone numbers on your list. Then after you do that, your next to-do item another day can be call the numbers of the auto glass shops and ask if fixing a leaking seal on a back window is even something they do, or if not, who does. The clearer the directions for the writer, the more likely the elephant and writer will comply. Eat healthier or exercise more are not specific. No wonder they're so hard for most people to do. Only buy yogurt with less than 3 grams of sugar per serving, no matter what. Or get 7,000 steps per day, rain or shine, heat wave or cold front, are clear. Knowing exactly what to do and starting small and building from there are very helpful for directing the writer. I know I also find it very useful to imagine situations where doing my clear action will feel very difficult. This blurs the lines into elephant territory, but when I decide to do a specific thing, say I'm going to log every morsel of food I ingest and evaluate my protein, carbs, and overall calories every day to make sure I'm fueling my body optimally. If I decide to do it, I imagine all of the scenarios when that is going to be hard. If I get to the end of the day and realize I haven't logged anything, it's going to take longer and be less precise, but I'm going to do it anyway. If I get in my bed and realize I forgot something on my list, I'm going to get out of my bed, walk into the kitchen, get my phone, and type in the data, even though I don't want to. If I'm at a restaurant and I can't find a close approximation to what I'm eating listed in Chronometer, I'm still going to do my best to find something as close as possible to what I'm having. If I want to eat a certain thing at the end of the day, but I'm under on my total protein or over on carbs or calories, I'm going to change what I eat, even though I don't want to. You get the idea. I find it extremely helpful to imagine the scenario and how I'm going to feel bummed out about it and then do it anyway. If you want to give crystal clear directions to your writer, but aren't sure how to even figure out what to do, it could be helpful to look for the rare areas where something is working well. What's an area where you are consistent doing a healthy daily routine every day? Maybe your dentist always gives you a gold star and lets you pick a prize for being in the no cavities club. You brush and floss like a boss. What can you learn from your exceptional oral hygiene habits that can be applied to your sleeping habits, let's say? Another way to do it might be to find someone else who is also incredibly busy but still successfully able to do what you aspire to do. Then ask her what exactly she does so that she always has a homemade unprocessed lunch at work. Get specific and then do the exact steps that she does. Give your rider some crystal clear instructions. Drive to Costco. Buy frozen veggie medley in bulk and a large package of chicken meatballs. Make sure you have 7 individual containers ready. Spend 10 minutes partitioning them out into individual containers. Add a pat of butter and a few cracks of salt to the veggies and squirt of sauce to the meatballs and put them in the fridge or freezer. Doable because it's clear. The next step is to motivate the elephant. Once the rider has very clear directions, the elephant needs to comply. I'm sure you've heard before that we make most decisions, especially purchasing decisions, based on our emotions. We buy because of an emotion and then we use logic after the fact to try to justify our decision. The same thing is true with most changes. When someone, including ourselves, is apathetic to our cause, the elephant is not on the rider's side, which means we don't have the energy and power we need to reach our destination. When we want to change behavior, especially in others, but sometimes in ourselves too, our first instinct is to teach them something. Come on, look at the facts. Cardiorespiratory fitness is the #1 predictor of all-cause mortality. See this graph here and that chart there? Improving your VO2 max will decrease your chance of dying from any cause. That is true, but we're speaking to the rider when we need to be speaking to the elephant. I love the analogy that trying to fight indifference to something with analytical arguments is like tossing a fire extinguisher to someone who's drowning. The solution doesn't match the problem. Speaking to the elephant is about finding the motivating feeling. Chip and Dan Heath point out that while it's possible to be motivated by fear, anger, or disgust, negative emotions narrow and constrict our mindset and our options. Focusing on your fear of premature death because of a low VO2 max, which that's just a test you can do to measure your cardiorespiratory endurance, might be motivating, but in a way that restricts your innate creativity and joy. Researcher Barbara Fredrickson has proven that positive emotions broaden and build. When we're motivated by positive emotions, we broaden the types of things we'd consider, and we build our skills and our resources. Especially when trying to solve ambiguous problems like putting more years lived in good health into our futures, we need hope, creativity, and an open mind. Those come from positive emotions, not negative ones. One of the emotions that the elephant really, really hates, so it's going to be extremely hard for the rider to force her to step into, is failure. We all know that avoiding failure, embarrassment, shame, pity, degradation, or frustration is natural. You may not have realized before that the reason it's so hard to overcome is that it's an elephant problem. So logical explanations and evidence are not the right solution. One thing that can help a lot is establishing an expectation of failure ahead of time, that failure will be a guaranteed part of the middle of that path. The elephant might still get a little spooked, but if you're expecting to see a creepy clown on your way to work, it's a lot less scary than if it takes you by surprise, right? How can you get better at expecting failure at the next thing you try? Maybe you're going to see a new doctor about perimenopausal hormone health. You're inspired by all of the long-term benefits of replacing your hormones and ready to be an active participant in your preventative health. If you expect there to be some hiccups along the way, maybe the first 1 or 2 doctors you see don't vibe with your philosophy or don't seem to know enough to prescribe and manage what you believe you deserve. Or any other number of problems. Maybe they refer you to a really expensive pharmacy or something. If you had gone into it expecting there would be some bumps in the road before you got everything humming along smoothly, you can acknowledge that you're still on the right path. You're just still in the messy middle right now. And these failures are a sign to keep going rather than a sign to give up. The elephant gets less spooked when she's expecting it. A lot of directing the rider and motivating the elephant have to do with the fact that willpower is a finite resource. The harder you have to think, the more decisions you have to make, the more difficult it will be for the rider to clearly direct the elephant. The more temptations around for easy, pleasurable, fun, or intriguing immediate gratification, the more difficult it will be for the elephant to keep motivated to stay focused on a long, hard road towards something in the distant future that maybe seems ambiguous and demanding or a lot of hard work or tedium. That's when we come to our final part of making intentional change easier. So we've got direct the rider and motivate the elephant, and the last one is shape the path. Shaping the path is smoothing out the bumps, making sure the path is well marked and graded into a gentle slope rather than a steep or dangerous incline. Shaping the path is about making the right behavior easier, way easier if possible, and making the wrong behavior harder, impossible if you can. So much of what we do depends on our environment and our circumstances. Dr. Benjamin Hardy has a whole book about how willpower doesn't work. His solution is to focus all your effort on creating an environment that drives your life forward without requiring a bunch of willpower. That's shaping the path. Things like throwing out all your dinner plates and always eating every meal on salad plates. Never eating anything out of a package, always putting a portion in a snack bowl so you don't eat more than you intended. Making appointments with people to get things done at a certain time so you can't back out. That helps me a ton. Even texting my 15-year-old son and telling him exactly what time we can go practice his driving. Because if I just think to myself, oh, I need to go driving with him to help him get his hours and experience, or even if I write it on my to-do list, a lot of times I'll blow it off because it's not that fun. He's actually a surprisingly good driver for a 15-year-old boy, but it's still stressful and time-consuming endeavor that's not nearly as fun as folding laundry or redecorating the fireplace mantle for the season or something. Anytime you're looking to make a change, think about how you can make doing the right behavior way easier and doing the wrong behavior way harder. There's something inherently satisfying about being smart enough to outsmart yourself, don't you think? That's why some people freeze their credit card in a block of ice or buy one of those alarm clocks that drives around the floor of their bedroom. Another way to shape the path and alleviate some of the willpower burden on the rider and the elephant is what we talked about way back in episode 46. Science shows this is the fastest way to change your behavior. There's a book called Stick With It by Sean Young. In it, he describes 7 forces that shape our behavior. But the science is unequivocal that the fastest way to change is to join a group where the desired behavior is the normal behavior. If you're riding an elephant down an unfamiliar path, it takes way less mental effort to just follow the herd. And you'll be way more likely to keep moving longer and harder with the herd than you would on your own. Being part of a group with high standards where your desired behavior is the normal thing that everyone just does makes it so much easier to do the right thing. Just be very careful about which herd you get caught up in and make sure you know exactly where they're headed, because herds can also make the wrong behavior way easier and you could end up somewhere that you never wanted to go. There you have it. Do you remember the 3 steps to making intentional change easier? Direct the rider. Make sure you're crystal clear about exactly what needs to be done and where and when. Motivate the elephant. Remember that the elephant is emotional, so don't try to motivate your elephant with statistics. Find a feeling that you resonate with. Why does this matter to you? Positive emotions are more powerful than negative ones. Expect failure along the way and see it as a sign that you're in the middle of the right path and need to just keep moving forward. And lastly, shape the path. Make the wrong behavior harder to do and the right behavior easier to do. Decrease your reliance on willpower and enjoy outsmarting yourself into the person that you want to be. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope this gives you a useful framework to help you come up with good ideas next time you want to make a change that sticks. Lots of things we berate ourselves for not doing or sticking with can be solved if we correctly diagnose the problem. Is the path too steep? Is the rider confused, or is the elephant ambivalent? I'll leave you with a quote from the book Switch by Chip and Dan Heath. We can say this much with confidence. When change works, it follows a pattern. The people who change have clear direction, ample motivation, and a supportive environment. In other words, when change works, it's because the rider, the elephant, and the path are all aligned in support of the switch. End quote. Next week, we're going to talk about how your face changes as you get older. Until then, remember the rider, the elephant, and the path, and don't be normal. Thank you so much for tuning into the Health Courage Collective podcast. I am truly honored that you have paid me the enormous compliment of your time and attention. I would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.